Hi, I'm Amy and I'm the Digital Marketing Executive here at In Professional Development. And today I'm going to be talking to one of our associate tutors, James Willerton, about coaching in the workplace and looking at all the different elements around coaching. So like the benefits, what it is, how you can become a coach, and when coaching might not be the right thing for you in the workplace. So firstly, I'd like to introduce James. Hi, James.
Hi. Hi, Amy. How are you?
I'm not bad, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, you're very welcome. So I'd like to kind of start off, James. We could tell the people a little bit about you, a little bit about, what it is that you do and how it links to coaching.
Yeah, so thank you. So I'm one of the tutors at NPD, and I teach level 7 leadership and management and the coaching and mentoring course that we run, and also some other associated bits and pieces when we get asked as well. So a bit of a jack of all trades, really, but coaching is something that we enjoy teaching.
Well, I suppose we can take it from there. We can kind of start by looking at, what coaching is, really.
Yeah, yeah. So coaching, I'll just put on screen here, if you can see this. This is as good a definition as any around coaching. And the thing with coaching, I guess, at heart is that it's a process. Um, and one of the best ways to think about coaching, which I guess defines it from other forms of interactions with people in the workplace, is who owns the process and who owns the content of the conversation.
Mhm.
And so coaching is very much where the coach would own the process and the coachee would own the content. And that's the important differentiation, really. That's what makes it powerful. The idea being that if you're being coached, you are responsible for the whole content of the conversation and the outcomes of it, from ideally from the topic of discussion to begin with, right through a process of decision making to some commitments to action. So it's a conversation with a purpose, very kind of future forward looking, as this quote says. And when done well, is extraordinarily powerful, because in essence what we're doing is we're trying to assist somebody to find their own solutions to their own problems. Whereas the traditional method may have been to tell somebody what to do,
Yeah,
um, or to tell them what their solution should be to our problem, not their problem, which we know doesn't really work that well.
yeah. So kind of leading on that point of, coaching someone instead of telling someone, how would you suggest that coaching could be used within a workplace setting, well, correctly?
Well, one of the ways I could probably answer this is by relating my own experience. So I used to, for my sins, own a executive recruitment business many
Mhm.
moons ago. And I kind of started doing coaching then without really knowing what coaching was. And I guess a lot of people watching this may well recognize it, even if they're not maybe that familiar with the professional coaching as a thing. They may well do it naturally as part of their management practice anyway. And so we had a bunch of very upwardly mobile, lively recruitment consultants to try to help perform well in role. And I quickly understood that telling them what to do wasn't really going to work long term. You would have the same conversations. The flag is you end up having the same conversations about the same performance issues
Yeah.
month after month, year after year. And as a manager, you end up scratching your head. We're not making progress here, obviously. And so what we did then was I repositioned it so that the conversations changed, so that I would be positioning myself as a help, as an assistant to the consultant in question. And I repositioned it to say, well, how can I help you to achieve the goals you want to achieve?
Mhm.
And by aligning their personal goals with the organizational goals, which you do through engineering your promotional structures, your onboarding structures, all that kind of thing. There's a bit of work behind this to make that fly, but we found that incredibly effective. And we went from people who were, you know, lip service, if you like, telling us the things they thought we wanted to hear just to get through and get their pay still that month. And this is obviously private sector. We went from that to people who were doing over hours, committed, who were actively coming to us to help them with issues they were having towards their performance, which is wonderful. So that's the best way I can probably explain its efficacy, I guess, in the workplace through my own experience.
And it's a great way of explaining it. You know, a personal touch it makes it feel more real and more people can relate. But you
Mm.
touched upon a few points there that I would kind of like to go into. You know, you went around the benefits of coaching in the workplaces, but
Mhm.
I would just like to ask specifically what benefits coaching can bring to a workplace.
Well, if you look at it in bold terms, you might use the word performance, because through using a coaching methodology, we're better able to harness people's innate ability. Motivation's a complex subject, and the research tells us actually that we can't motivate other people. The motivation's always intrinsic.
Mhm.
And if you accept that as just a truth in life, and it makes sense if you do, a basic, thought experiment over it by thinking about ourselves and our own experience, you'd be most motivated when you wanted to do something to meet your own objectives, your own way, yeah?
Yeah.
And everybody is the same. So, sometimes managers lose that, a personal fact. And so if you take that, then it really can help to harness as an approach people's innate motivation and tag into that. And of course, things like engagement, it helps as well,
Mhm.
because we're not dictating to, because we're not providing answers all the time or telling people. What we end up doing, hopefully, over time, and I'll show on the next slide, we're able to um, develop improved decision making throughout the organization. So individually it works, but also for the whole organization, we're able to try and reach something more towards our potential as a group of individuals.
Perfect. So that kind of leads me on to how can someone go about becoming a coach within the workplace and supporting their teams to bring out, the motivational side and the best of their team, really.
Yeah, well, I guess if I just go on to the next slide here and answer that as part of this. So um, one of the things that we teach on our coaching program um, is the situational leadership model by
Mhm.
Blanchard and Hersey, and the book there is the 1 Minute Manager series from Blanchard, which are pretty accessible, a bit American, but they're pretty accessible,
Yep.
and that probably positions where coaching lives in an organization and for individual. What we would probably say is that if you consider these kind of, and I won't go into this in too much detail in this call, but they think there are kind of four main areas in which we can have a relationship between a manager and a managee, if you like. And it begins with the directing phase, where perhaps the individual being managed doesn't really know what they don't know yet. And
Mhm.
so being, in effect, told what to do is requisite here, and it's the right thing in that situation.
Yeah.
Then there comes a point where the individual kind of grows their capacity and understanding in the context. And there comes this phase where mentoring is the best approach for that individual. And that's where um, we bring in subject matter experts who have direct experience in the thing that the individual lacks. And then through that process, we're able to kind of grow our capability a little bit further. But that's kind of support intensive stuff. And then
Yeah.
that's where a lot of organizations get stuck actually here for a number of reasons, which again, we go into more detail on course. The next one is coaching, which we're talking about today. And this is the key really that bridges this mentoring stage that lots of organizations will do,
Mhm.
and this lovely place here of delegating, where what we've done through this asking questions, not giving answers, is grown the capability in individuals to make good decisions
Yeah.
for themselves under some guidance of the process, and
Yeah.
then we're able to delegate in the end. And that's nice because it means that your managers and leaders can eat tea again, and get back to the value adding stuff
Yeah.
that they need to do in terms of strategic planning, etc., or giving more to other people in the cycle. So this isn't a kind of a one-way street. People can go in between these different states. That's why it's called situational. But a really capable leader, I would suggest, has these four different elements in their capabilities, different styles and approaches to management in a situation. So the benefit is through doing this, as I said, we're able to develop potential, maximize potential throughout the whole organization over time.
Perfect. There's quite a lot of insightful information in there for a lot of people to take away. Um, and I suppose the last thing I'd really like to ask you is, people take this information and they become a coach, but when might they misuse that information or use it in the wrong way? When might coaching be wrong? or the
Yeah,
role?
well, I think this model is a good way to think about it. So first of all, to become a coach, there is no kind of professional standard, if you like, to it. So anybody can, in fact, be a coach, and you can deploy coaching methodology quite informally. So it depends how much depth you want to really attack this from as a leader. But I think it's good for leaders to understand how to do it if you accept that it's a fairly critical component in unleashing this organizational potential
Yep.
in others, even if not everybody's actually cut out to be a coach. So to answer your kind of last question there, if somebody cannot stop advising, and this happens all the time, we have this need to be needed thing where actually some people enjoy the validation of having the answers, really. And there can be some pretty solid reasons for that, in terms of if the organizational structures don't talk to people being rewarded for promoting others and creating new leaders,
Hmm.
which may even go past them in the organizational
Yeah.
hierarchy. We need to think about incentivizing this, and there's that thing. So coaching can't work if the culture won't support it, is one answer. It can't work if the individual trying to coach doesn't have an awareness of how to and can't get out of mentor,
Yeah.
which is another common thing that happens. And it only works if both parties are electing to go into the process. So the coachee must also recognize that they are in this stage, in the situation leadership cycle here, where they're ready for this,
Yeah.
and willing to engage with it of their own volition. Because again, if you try and force this, if it isn't the right thing for them, you don't get buy-in, you don't get good results. So there are a few areas where we need to use coaching with some caution, I think, and as part of a picture.
Perfect. Well, I think that covers everything I was hoping to cover with you. So, thank you very much for your time. And if, anybody would like to come and join James on one of our coaching courses, then all the links will be in the content above. But as I said, thank you very much, James. It's been really good talking to you. There's a lot of insightful things there.
Thank you very much, and come and join us on a course soon. We have lots of fun, and we hope to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.